Wow, let's take a breath together. Cute. Thank you very much. My topic today is following divine guidance, the domino effect. Following divine guidance, the domino effect. And when I was looking at this over the last couple of days, I immediately thought, I wonder why I didn't say the ripple effect. And then I heard Spirit say, it's following divine guidance. Remember, I told you the domino effect. So it's the domino effect. And what the domino effect states is that when we change a behavior, it activates a chain reaction, and related behaviors will also change. And it doesn't just have to deal with behaviors. That's kind of psychological kinds of things. There are certain actions that can be taken that will set a chain reaction in motion that will affect related or interrelated things, or affect all kinds of things. It's similar to the ripple effect, but it's not the same thing. And thinking about it from just in our spiritual work, I think about the domino effect when you think about a row of dominoes from here to downtown. If you touch it just right, then they all will cascade. There'll be a chain reaction, and they'll all fall. If you don't touch them quite right, then that doesn't happen. And in our spiritual work, when we are in that particular place and we take a particular action, and we're in that zone, then there is a chain reaction that happens, that's activated, and doors begin to open, and one door after another, and one door after another, and one door after another, doors that we didn't even know were there. We call them sometimes miracles. And that's how it works, the chain reaction. And that's what we want to set up in our own lives. Just back up a little bit about the chain reaction when we change behavior. It can work for things we want in our lives and things that we don't particularly want. When I think about checking emails, and you're going to check your email, and then you see a Facebook notification, and you just, well, I'll check this. I only have a few minutes, and then an hour later, you're still on Facebook, and you're still looking, and you're still looking, and you're still looking. And so that's kind of the domino effect, and that's how it works. There was a scientific study that showed that people who live sedentary lifestyles and are on the couch watching TV a lot, if they stop that behavior and start doing something more active, they will cut down on their fat intake. And it also it also affects their weight and a change in diet. And it's something about that being sedentary that, I guess because they sit and eat more, and I like the way I'm saying they sit and eat more. I just heard myself say that. That they sit and eat more, and then you take in more fat and more of this and more of that, and it affects our health in different kinds of ways. So the chain reaction does really happen in ways that we don't even know about. But today we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the chain reaction that happens, the domino effect that happens when we are following that guidance that we're always getting. And we are always getting it, because there's that knower within each of us that knows exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, and all those things that we think that we know and we want to control, but there's that knower that knows it all. So I'm going to invite you to take a breath, and I'll share with you an experience I had this past week that really gave me an opportunity to look at the domino effect and how it worked in my own life, and give you an example of how it can work in your own life. On Wednesday evening, let's take a breath again. On Wednesday evening this week, I received a text message from a friend in Santa Cruz that my best friend of 15 years was making his transition. And even though it was not unexpected, I just didn't think it would be so soon. So I immediately did what I can do best sometimes. I went into denial and said, oh, I can't go right now because I have to do Sunday service. And so I'll go, and they had just called in hospice. So I will go Monday, or maybe even Sunday after service, but I don't have to worry about it now. I'm not going now. This is Wednesday. I can go Monday. And so I went to bed thinking about him a lot, which is what I had been doing a lot anyway. Excuse me, but when I got up Thursday morning, I was going about my morning things, and around 8 o'clock, I got the message from Spirit, go now to Santa Cruz. And I thought, well, Monday, I can go Monday. I gotta do service on Sunday. Go to Santa Cruz. So I've learned to listen a lot better than I have in the past. And I decided, okay, I'm getting this message to go to Santa Cruz. I'm going to go. And I knew that he wanted me to be with him at the end, and I wanted to be with him at the end. And so I checked the flights, and I found out that there was a flight at 1:05, nonstop, from Phoenix to San Jose. And, well, by this time it's 8:30, and I thought, okay, they had only 2 seats left. So I looked at the flights and texted another friend to see if she could pick me up from the airport. She said yes, and so I decided, okay, I'm going to get this flight. And just before I clicked the buy now, I called another friend, and I told him I was thinking about going to Santa Cruz, and he said, are you sure you're supposed to go now? Or are you just caught up in the moment? Or do you think you really should just take off and go now? And I said, I think I better go now. And this reminds me of one of the quotes from the book that Reverend Michelle is using this month, Through God's Eyes. Gandhi says, don't listen to friends when there's a friend within who says, do this. And the friend within was saying, do this, go now. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go. And I went ahead and I bought the ticket, and I started preparing to go. And I live up around Paradise Valley Mall, if anybody knows where that is. And the way that I go to the airport is straight down Tatum. I don't know how to do the freeway. So my flight was leaving at 1:05. It was boarding at 12:30. I left home at 11:35. And I realized that I need to get through security, and I need to do all that. And I still left home at 11:35. And as I'm driving down Tatum, every light was green. Every light was green. I knew that I was in the zone. That zone of, when you're in that zone of just guidance, being with Spirit, being led, being told what to do, and just following directions. And so that's what I was able to do all the way out to the airport. I talked to my daughter on the way out there, and she said, get valet parking. You don't have to worry about the car. This is my first time driving myself to the airport. She said, just get valet parking. You can go right in and be done with it. I said, okay. So I'm driving out there, and I cross the last street where there's a light, and I head into the airport, and my ego goes, you don't know where valet parking is. Now, I've ridden to the airport with my daughter, and she's gotten valet parking, and but I wasn't paying that much attention. So as I pulled in, I was in the departure lane, and I moved over into the arrival lane, and I'm getting this message, just follow the signs in the P in the square. Just follow that, and you will get to valet parking. But I moved out of that lane, and I got into the arrival lane, and I went down by baggage claims and realized, there's no parking down here. So I went all the way out of the airport and came all the way back around 44th Street and went up to Washington and made a U-turn and came back down into the airport. And when I got back down there, I had the same dilemma. So I got into the arrival lane again. And as I got into that lane, I saw departures. And I thought, you park when you're departing. That's probably where it is, over there. But by now I'm over in arrival, so I have to keep going. And so I go all the way around, and I go back up to Washington, and I come back down. And when I come back down, I know, okay, I got it. I'm going to get in departures. But my ego is really going crazy by now. It's going, you don't know where valet parking is. You haven't. Why don't they have a sign that says valet parking? Why don't you do? Why didn't you ask? Why don't you? I had Siri send my daughter a text saying, "Where's valet parking?" You know, but she was in a meeting. She couldn't respond. But so I'm driving along. I get in the departure lane, and as soon as I enter that area, I see what looks like an entrance for parking over here, but it didn't say valet. So why would I turn in there? And as soon as I passed it, I saw the sign that said valet. So for a split second, I thought, maybe I'll just back up. Nah, not at the airport. So guess what I did? I went all the way around. I went all the way around. Now remember, I didn't leave home until 11:35. And I went all the way around. I came back around. I finally got into valet parking, which was so easy. If my ego had not gotten stuck on crazy, then I could have, just gone straight there, because God was already showing me how to get there. But I was, I had moved out of the zone into my head. So I get up to valet parking. I tell the guy, I'm really in a hurry. My flight's at 1:05, and he says, it's 12:30. Well, I guess it's like 12:15 now. And I said, I know. So he just took the car and said, call us. Gave me a card and said, call us. And I said, okay. For the first time that I've flown in many a year, I didn't have TSA pre-check, which meant I had to go through general boarding with about 950 other people. And I get there, and now you got to take everything off. You got to take your shoes off. You got to do all this. And I do all that. I put my purse down on the carousel belt. Thank you. Put it down on the belt. And the agent asked me, do you have any fruit in your bag other than an apple? And I said, yes, I just put some plums in there this morning. And he said, well, you got to take that out. And my bag was really full. You got to take all that out. And the time is passing. And I said, what if I said no? And he said, okay. So he pushed the bag, straight through. So then we get to my suitcase, and I have to take my laptop out and put it in a separate bin, and they send that through, and I close the suitcase bag up, and he says, do you have a toiletries bag in here? And I said, yes. And he says, you got to take it out. I said, no. And he said, okay, and he sent it right through. So he sent me right through. So by the time fortunately, once I get through and get everything back where it's supposed to be, my gate is at gate 3, and instead of gate 3 being all the way down to the other end, it was at gate 3, like 1, 2, 3, right there. It was really crowded. They had started boarding. Then I had the thought, as claustrophobic as I can be, as late as I am, I'm going to get a middle seat or a window seat, and that's not going to be pretty. So I decided to go and see if I could upgrade my ticket. And I get to the counter, and there's a man in front of me who's showing the agent all of his grandchildren's pictures. And I just decided, you know what? Get back in the zone. Get back in the zone. And I had left home with the affirmation, God, I'm trusting you. That's my favorite affirmation. God, I'm trusting you. God, I'm trusting you. I don't know how any of this is going to unfold. And it was unfolding just fine until my ego got involved and decided, you don't know where valet parking is. And then everything started to, there was a chain reaction of that. And so once I moved back into the zone, this man finally moved out of the way. I asked the agent if I could upgrade. She said, there are no more seats that you can upgrade to. And she said, what do you need? I said, an aisle seat. She said, do you really need one? I said, yes. She said, I'll give you a pre-board ticket. They had stopped pre-boarding by then. She gave me a pre-board ticket, and I just walked right onto the plane. That's how God works. When we let God work. That's how God works when our egos don't get involved and start to make waves. I was already in the flow. I was making every light coming down Tatum. I was doing fine until I decided to freak out because I didn't see a sign for valet parking. And so I got on the flight. I got picked up in San Jose, and all the way there, I knew that there was no reason I should make that flight on my own. No human reason I should be able to come from where I came from to get on that plane and make it in time. So I knew that everything was working. And all the way there, I was talking to my friend Dave. When I lived in California, and we were together a lot over the last 15 years, and we went to a lot of places together. And whenever he came to pick me up to go someplace or just came to the house or whatever, if there was a particular time that he was supposed to be there, he was always early. And I was always not early. Okay. So it didn't always work, So when if we go someplace at 9 and he rings the doorbell at 8:30, it would just make me crazy. So I would just say to him, "Why are you so early? Don't come early." He said, "But it's 8:30. We're supposed to be there at 9, or it's 8:45. We're supposed to be there at 9. Do not ring my doorbell early." So he got so, bless his heart, he would come up and I'd see his truck parked in front of my house, and then he would get out and walk all the way around the neighborhood. And and then he'd come back to his car, to the truck, and get in. Sometimes he'd sit on the porch, and then at 9 o'clock or whatever time, he'd ring the doorbell. So that was our relationship. But all the way there, I was saying to him, "Dave, don't be early. I'm on my way. Don't be early. Don't you dare be early. I'm on my way." And he wasn't early. When I got there, he was still there. And I had the opportunity to go in and to be with him, and his daughter was there also. And he had another friend there who's a very close friend of his. And I was able to spend that time with him. I stayed with him a couple of hours. I was able to hug on him and kiss on him, and I used to walk up behind him when he was sitting and put my arms around him and kiss him all over his face, and he would turn beet red and get embarrassed and all that. And so I kept kissing him, saying, "Now I can kiss you like I want to." And I knew he could hear me, and I was whispering to him, telling him how much I loved him, how much I appreciated him, and telling him how it was okay for him to let go. And being so grateful that I had the opportunity to be there with him, because he wanted me to be, and I wanted to be there with him, and he waited for me. He wasn't early, and I said to him, "Thank you for not being early." Thank you for not being early today. And so I spent a little over 2 hours with him. And I had planned to just stay there for a while. But all of a sudden, I got the message, "It's time to go." And I didn't question it. I just said, "Okay, it's time to go." And so my friend and I said our goodbyes, and I kissed him again, and I left. And he passed within half an hour. And I knew that he had waited for me to get there. And I knew that I had really followed divine guidance, that I had followed that guidance. And once I stepped into that place of following that guidance, then that's when the domino effect took over. That's when doors opened. That's when lights turned green. That's when I circled the airport 4 times and still got up to valet parking. That was a new record for me, circling the airport that many times, and still got to the gate on time and getting the seat that I needed to be in order to be able to make that flight like a sane person. So it was really a testament to what it means to follow divine guidance for me. And I thought so much about the topic for today, and that this is what following divine guidance is all about. It doesn't have to be about a big thing, and yes, it is about a big thing also, but just being in that place where we are following that guidance at each and every moment of each and every day, when we can be in that place, in that space, where we are so connected to spirit that we're always being guided. That's the goal for all of us, where we're always being guided, because that guidance is always available. That guidance is always available. But when it comes, sometimes we get into our heads, and sometimes we start to question whether or not, is this really guidance or is this me thinking? Well, the minute you think that, you don't have to take thought of it at all. You don't have to take thought of it at all. When you're following, it's just really easy, and you're just really in the flow with it. And so I invite you to think about how you respond to divine guidance that's always available to you. How do you tap into it? And as you know, I'm real big on spiritual practice, and I talk about it a lot, and I will talk about it a lot, that it's so important for us to practice our spiritual practice. Whatever it is that brings us into alignment with the all that is, whatever it is that brings us into alignment with that knower within us that knows everything. Ernest Holmes says, know that there's an intelligence to which we may come, not go, come, to which we may come for inspiration, for guidance, for direction. A power watching over us, a presence pressing against us, an animation flowing through us, a light within us. All of that is within us, and all we need to do is tap into it and align ourselves with it. And when we align ourselves with that, everything flows. Everything works like clockwork. The thing for us to do is to be willing to let go of our need to control, be willing to let go of our need to know, be willing to let go of our need to manage, be willing to let go of that ego that's always talking to us, always wants to put up a fight sometimes. And that's not to put the ego down, it's just to know that it has its own place, and this place is not in the divine guidance mix because it doesn't quite work that well. And so let's take a breath. And so that's what I had the experience of doing this past week. I got there before he left, and I came right back on Friday morning. And I still got a chance to come here today. So using that excuse that, I can't go now, I have to be at church on Sunday. That didn't work. I went, and I'm really glad that I went. And the three words that I've come up with for all of us when it comes to our guidance, and to when we get a nudge, because God is always speaking to us through people, places, things, circumstances, situation, events, and smackdown. Sometimes it takes smackdown to get our attention. I know for me it does. It can really, I've had a few of those smackdowns. And so I think we all have. And so when we can learn to listen, Rafi Zabor says that God speaks as softly as possible and as loudly as is necessary. God speaks as softly as possible and as loudly as necessary. How loud does God have to speak to you? Can we hear that small voice? Can we hear that small voice that's always speaking to us, that's always talking to us? And it doesn't have to be in words. Sometimes it's in feelings. Sometimes it's in nudges. Sometimes it's in all kinds of ways that still small voice is speaking to us. And the thing for us to do, the three words, as I said, is stop, look, and listen. Stop, look, and listen. That's what we need to do, stop, look, and listen. And we stop doesn't necessarily mean literally stop, but it means coming to a pause. It means taking a breath. It means taking that breath that gives us a chance to take an energetic step back, and taking that breath that returns us to our center. That's the stopping. Whatever's going on, stop, return to center. Stop, take a breath, return to center, and then move from that place. And so it doesn't have to go in any particular order, and you can do it all at the same time. When we're looking for the hand of God in every situation that's coming up. We're always looking for the hand of God because it's always there in whatever situation we may find ourselves in. When we're looking prospectively, it's the hand of God. When we're looking retrospectively, we see the fingerprints of God. When we can look back and say, God's fingerprints were all over that. That's what I was able to see about that trip to the airport there. God's fingerprints were all over that trip. as I was going and seeing the lights change, I could see God's hand in it. But once I got hung up in the parking thing, I missed the rest of it. But you know how we get caught up in things like that sometimes. So we're always looking for the hand of God in everything, every situation, every circumstance. And we're listening for that still small voice. We're listening for that nudge. We're listening for however it is God speaks to us, and God speaks to us in so many ways. We're listening for that. When I say still small voice, I think of, you know, the other name for God. The other name for God is something. Something told me not to turn down that street. Something told me that I should do whatever. Something told me that whatever. Something told me. That's the other name for God. Are you playing me off the stage? For a moment, I thought like I was at the Apollo. He was going to pull out a hook. I thought he was going to hook me off the stage. Yeah, something told me to get off the stage. Thank you, Paul. Let's take a breath, yeah. But you know what I mean about something? Mm-hmm. And we usually don't get something until after the fact. What we want to learn to do is to know God's voice and recognize God's voice before the fact or while it's happening. In real time, be aware of the presence of God working in our lives. Be aware of the power of God right where we are. Be aware of the guidance of God showing us the way, each step of the way, in real time. That's what we want. That's where we want to be. And it takes practice, and it takes more practice, and then it takes more practice. We just have to keep doing it over and over and over again. Because it's so easy to lose it, just like that. So many things come up, so many things come up, so many things distract us. And all we need to do is stop, take a breath, look, and listen. Listen for that voice. It takes courage to stop, to look, and to listen rather than to go blindly on trying to do it ourselves. It takes courage to do that. It takes faith and courage. Martin Luther King says, in faith, we take the first step without being able to see the whole staircase. In faith, we take the first step without being able to see the whole staircase. That's how divine guidance works. We trust God. We trust God. And then we follow. We follow those steps that are laid out before us. We follow that path that is laid out before us. And it's always laid out before us. It's our choice as to whether we're going to follow it or not. It's our choice whether we're going to have the courage to follow it or not. And if you're having any question about whether when you get some guidance or when you get a message, whether it's your ego or whether it's your self-thinking, if you start to argue with it, it's your ego. If you get emotion with it, it's a clue that it's not divine guidance. Divine guidance is very subtle and very still. There's a knowing. There's a knowing. There's a knowing. And what I'd like you to do is to look back at times in your life, could have been today, could be now, times in your life when you've gotten guidance and you know that that's Spirit speaking to you. You know that that's the guidance that you're getting. See where you receive that information. Where in your body do you get that? Because it can be a very sensory thing. Where do you receive information? Where do you receive that knowing? I get mine right here in solar plexus. There's a knowing that comes. I sometimes get it here. But where do you get yours? Everybody gets it differently. Everybody receives information and is connected in their own individual way, according to their own uniqueness. But think about it. Think back on times that you got a message and it was the right thing for you to do and everything was working right and you did it. That knowing, where did you get that knowing? Tap into that so that you'll know when it comes up and you can start to trust it when it comes up. You can start to believe, yes, and you don't have to stand and question, is this me? Am I thinking? Is this my ego? You don't have to go through all that. You just know when that feeling comes. It's just like when I got the message at 8 o'clock in the morning, go to Santa Cruz. Now, I knew. I mean, there's so many things that I get messages that way all the time. It's like I say something descends on me. It's like, okay. And then I start, to flail against it sometimes and decide that I'm going to do it my way or whatever. I have a minister friend who says that she no longer has to do things the hard way, just to do them her way. And I've been learning that. I no longer have to do things the hard way, just to do them my way. And oftentimes when we decide to do them our way, it's the hard way. And we can be willing to let that go. But just know where am I getting the message? Where do I get the information? And then the more you practice that, the more you pay attention to that, the more you stop, look, and listen, the more you develop that muscle. The more you develop that muscle, the more the better able you are to recognize it when it comes. You don't have to question because you know when that feeling comes, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. We don't have to figure out the how. That's not our business. God knows how. Ours is the what. What am I supposed to do? And if God said this is what you're supposed to do, then God knows how you're supposed to do it. The how is not our work. The what is. And that's what we want to be focused on. This is what I'm being guided to do. If God is guiding me to do this, then God knows how I'm going to get on this plane by 1:05. After all this other stuff came up. And God did know. I certainly didn't. Didn't know how I was going to get through that mass of people and all that, but I did. And so that's our work, is to over and over and over again practice. Practice connecting and reconnecting with Spirit. Practice connecting and reconnecting with Spirit. Practice those things that keep us in the flow. Always wanting to be in the flow. The flow is God is the flow. Not just in the flow, God is the flow. And that's where we want to be, in the flow. And when it starts to get hard, when we start to effort, when we start to get ego crazy and all that, we're going against the flow. We're trying to swim upstream. The first workshop I ever did was a class called, was a class called Go With The Flow. And we did a lot of work with learning the flow, learning how to be in the flow. And, when you're in a boat and you're going downstream, no problem. Just go right on downstream. But the minute you turn that boat around and try to head back upstream, then all kinds of things start to happen. All kinds of discomfort, all kinds of anxiety, all kinds of efforting, all kinds of wonderings, all kinds of stuff just comes up. And we don't have to deal with that. When we recognize that we're going back upstream, take a deep breath. Turn that boat around and head downstream. Turn that boat around and head downstream. And I want you to understand, this applies to everything. I don't care how dire the circumstances may be. I don't care how serious the issue may be, the problem may be. And there are serious problems. I'm not trying to minimize anything or discount anything. I'm just saying God works in all situations. God works in all situations. God doesn't know big or little. God doesn't know disease, big dis-ease from some kind of physical thing, or dis-ease because you didn't get your burger right. When you have some kind of dis-ease because of that. The disease is dis-ease. And so God works in all those situations all the time. And what we want to do is to be in alignment with that knower. Be in alignment with that presence. Be in alignment. Be in alignment with that guidance that is always available to us. And when we can do that, that's when the miracles start to happen in our lives. That's when we really start to have those doors open that we didn't even know were there. Opportunities that we didn't even know were available. Possibilities. We start to live with the possibility consciousness because we know when we're following that guidance, everything's possible. All things are possible. All things are possible. All things. Not just some things. All things are possible when we are in alignment with the all that is. And so I invite you to really create a domino effect in your life. Really create a domino effect by following divine guidance. Set your intention to follow divine guidance and then go for it in every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life. Did I say every aspect of your life? Follow it in every aspect of your life. Trusting God more than you trust anybody or anything. And then following that guidance, surrendering, knowing that you don't have to do anything alone and you can't. I think it's Desmond Tutu who says that without you, God won't. Without God, you can't. Without you, God won't. Without God, you can't. That's for us to keep in mind. So let's go with God. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. What do we have to lose? Fear and doubt. What? Stress. Yeah. Yeah, Marianne Williamson says, when we remember how unlimited the power of God is, then we stop stressing over how limited ours is. When we remember that God's power is so unlimited, we stop stressing over how limited ours is. God's power is unlimited. We have access to that power. We can use it. It's available to us. It is our power. We just want to move into alignment with it. Let's take a breath. Let's move into prayer. Thank you, Paul. Just knowing and sensing and feeling this presence of God right here, right now, right where we are. Knowing that this presence of God is the only presence, the only power, the only mind, the only breath. God indeed is all that there is. This allness that is God is my very life. This allness that is God is the life of each of us here this day. We take a breath and align ourselves with this allness now, knowing that everything we could need or desire or hope for is contained within this allness that is God. And so we look no further than that. We seek first the kingdom. We seek first God, and all things are added unto us. And that's what we do as we turn within in this moment. Seek first this God presence. And that as we do so, anything unlike this magnificence that is God dissolves into the nothingness from whence it came. We allow it to go. We release it, we let it go. Those things that don't serve us, those things that would keep us small, those things that would keep us limited, those things that would keep us stressed and worried, we let those go. And we open ourselves up to the divine, knowing that we're always being guided, we're always being directed, we're always being cared for, we're always being comforted, we're always being loved, we're always being kept safe and secure, and we just need to trust. And so I speak a word of trust for each of us this day. Just knowing that we trust God above all else. And as we walk forward in that trust, our every step is ordered. by God, because we walk forward into that path that was created for us by God, who goes before us always. And so I just say thank you, Father, Mother God, for the blessings of this time, the blessings of this day, for the guidance that we receive, the guidance that we are open to, for our availability to it. I speak a word of availability for each of us, a word of possibility, a word of openness. And I give such great thanks that this availability is ours now. And we reap the benefits of that with each breath that we take. And so all of the love and joy and peace and harmony and balance and forgiveness and gratitude, or whatever qualities of God there are, we experience them in our lives right here, right now. And so as we open this circle of prayer, I'll pause momentarily so that you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer. You may speak them silently or loud, but you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names are spoken here this day, I'm just knowing that God is right where each of them is, blessing and keeping them. The Spirit goes out to anyone on this planet needing a prayer this day, to the kids who are separated from parents, to people who are going hungry, to wherever there is a need, God is in the midst of it all. I speak a special word of blessing for Reverend Michelle this day, just knowing that right where she is, God is blessing and keeping her, that she travels safely and securely. I speak a word of blessing for my friend Dave Francis, who has shaken off the mortal coil and has moved on to his greater yet to be as he adjusts to his new surroundings. I wish him Godspeed, knowing that God is right where he is. Thank you, Father, Mother God. Thank you, Infinite Presence. Thank you, Divine Mother. I just allow it to be now. And so it is.